Good evening, everyone. I'm here with the latest update on the dangerous storm currently threatening Florida. We've just received exclusive information from Vice President Kamala Harris, who has been actively involved in emergency briefings alongside federal agencies. This storm is described as unlike anything Florida has ever seen, and officials are urging all residents to take immediate action. Vice President Harris emphasized the critical nature of this storm, urging people to follow the evacuation orders. She stated, "This storm is not like anything we have ever dealt with before in Florida. While the state has seen hurricanes and tornadoes, this event is anticipated to be far more catastrophic." Local officials are working around the clock to ensure that those in high-risk areas evacuate immediately. The vice president warned that ignoring these orders could have deadly consequences. One key point Harris highlighted was that even if the storm's category shifts from 5 to 4, the danger remains nearly the same. She explained that Category 5 and Category 4 are almost equivalent in terms of the danger and damage they will cause. This is a critical message for people who might assume that the storm is weakening. It is still deadly, and every precaution must be taken. FEMA and local emergency response teams are fully mobilized on the ground. These dedicated teams are providing guidance, helping with evacuations, and preparing for post-storm recovery. Harris assured the public that resources are in place to assist both during and after the storm, but she made it clear that time is of the essence. The state of FEMA's resources. In a follow-up, the vice president was asked about FEMA's capacity to handle this crisis, especially considering recent financial strain. FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell had announced that the agency is down to $11 billion in disaster relief funding after spending $9 billion over the past week. When asked if FEMA has enough resources to handle the situation, Vice President Harris confirmed that FEMA absolutely has what they need right now to deal with this hurricane. However, she stressed the importance of Congress acting promptly when they reconvene to approve additional disaster relief funding. While FEMA has the necessary resources for the immediate future, more funding will be crucial in the coming weeks to handle what she described as historic disasters. The spread of misinformation. Another pressing issue the vice president addressed was the dangerous spread of misinformation surrounding the storm. She expressed deep concern over false claims that have been circulating, which have the potential to put lives at risk. Harris was particularly critical of political figures spreading false information, stating that the gamesmanship has to stop and that in moments of crisis, politics should take a back seat to people's safety. Local officials on the ground, including sheriffs and mayors, have been working tirelessly to dispel these falsehoods and ensure that citizens know their rights and how to seek help. The vice president called out the dangerous consequences of misleading the public during such a critical time. International influence? When asked whether foreign adversaries might be behind the spread of misinformation, similar to what was seen after the Hawaii fires last year, the vice president said there was no indication of that currently. However, she emphasized that no matter the source, the spread of misinformation during a natural disaster hurts the American people. Additional federal response. As part of the federal response, Harris discussed the role of the military in handling the crisis. While some have suggested that President Biden appoint an active duty commander to lead the federal response, the vice president downplayed the need for any restructuring at this time. Instead, she reinforced the urgency of immediate action on the ground, saying that right now, the focus should be on evacuations and providing real-time aid to those affected. She also mentioned that tornadoes have already begun hitting parts of the area, further escalating the urgency of the situation. Critical concerns, such as potential damage to Tampa's port, were also highlighted as federal and local agencies rushed to mitigate risks. Local perspectives. Sarasota prepares for impact. We now turn to Sarasota, where local authorities are bracing for the storm's impact. Police Chief Rex Trachet joined the broadcast, sharing the latest on evacuation efforts and storm preparations. Trachet explained that many residents have already evacuated, judging by the decrease in traffic on the roads. However, for those who remain, the window for evacuation is closing rapidly. He urged those still in Sarasota to shelter in place as conditions continue to worsen. The winds are already battering the area, with gusts strong enough to shake even Category 5 rated windows and buildings, making it incredibly dangerous to be out on the streets. Chief Trotchet also expressed concern about the infrastructure in Sarasota, which was already damaged by previous storms. With Hurricane Helene having hit just weeks ago, many buildings are vulnerable, and the area is expecting severe flooding due to the accumulated rainfall from previous storms. Final warning. As we close this update, the message from officials is clear. If you are in an evacuation zone, follow the orders immediately. The storm is approaching rapidly, and it is unlike anything Florida has faced before. FEMA and local emergency services are prepared to assist, but every minute counts in getting to safety. This is a developing situation, and we will continue to bring you the latest updates. Stay tuned, stay safe, and follow the guidance of local officials. That's all for now. Back to you in the studio. Anchor. As we continue to follow the impact of Hurricane Milton, let's dive deeper into the specific challenges facing emergency services and local communities. In addition to the immediate dangers posed by high winds and storm surge, power outages are becoming a major concern. Florida Power and Light, FPL, has already reported over 300,000 outages across the state. As the hurricane makes landfall, this number is expected to rise dramatically. Crews are already being mobilized from other states to assist in the recovery effort, but restoring power could take days or even weeks, depending on the extent of the damage. FPL has prioritized hospitals, shelters, and emergency services, but for many residents, especially those in rural areas, power restoration may be slow. We've also received reports from the local Red Cross shelters, where many evacuees are riding out the storm. Over 100,000 people statewide have sought refuge in these shelters, with 20,000 of them located in South Florida alone. Conditions inside the shelters are calm but tense as everyone waits to see how the storm progresses. Volunteers are working tirelessly to provide food, blankets, and emotional support to evacuees, many of whom have left their homes behind, unsure of what they'll return to once the storm has passed. Mental health experts are warning that the emotional toll of this disaster could be severe, particularly for families who have experienced previous hurricanes, such as Ian or Irma. Children, in particular, may feel the impact of stress and fear more intensely, with many showing signs of anxiety and confusion as they shelter in unfamiliar environments. The Red Cross and other organizations are providing counseling services, especially for children and the elderly, to help them cope during this difficult time. On the front lines, first responders are facing a grueling task. While many have been pulled off the streets due to safety concerns, they are preparing for a rapid response once the storm passes. Rescue teams have already staged in key locations, ready to move in as soon as conditions allow. High-water rescue vehicles, helicopters, and boats are on standby, especially in areas prone to flooding. Governor Ron DeSantis held a press conference earlier this evening, where he reassured Floridians that the state is fully prepared to deal with the aftermath of the storm. He announced that 5,000 National Guard troops are on active duty, with another 2,000 on standby, ready to assist in rescue operations, clear debris, and distribute supplies. In addition, more than 100 FEMA response teams are already positioned across the state, ready to jump into action once conditions improve. The governor stressed that the focus right now is on survival. Property can be rebuilt, but lives cannot be replaced. If you are still in an evacuation zone, you need to hunker down and shelter in place immediately. It's too late to evacuate. He also highlighted the cooperation between local and federal agencies, emphasizing that they are working together to ensure that resources are distributed quickly and efficiently. He thanked President Biden for the quick federal response and the pre-positioning of resources. Meanwhile, the Coast Guard is warning about dangerous conditions along Florida's coastline. Waves of up to 15 feet are crashing into the shore, particularly along the Gulf Coast, and rip currents are expected to remain a threat even after the hurricane moves inland. All beach activity has been banned, and officials are urging everyone to stay away from the water until conditions stabilize. Several ships have been moved out to sea to avoid the hurricane, but smaller boats left in marinas may face significant damage from the storm surge and high winds. As the storm moves inland, areas in central and northern Florida are preparing for torrential rainfall. Meteorologists are predicting up to 20 inches of rain in some locations, which could lead to catastrophic flooding. Towns like Gainesville and Ocala, which are already saturated from previous storms, are bracing for what could be some of the worst flooding they've seen in years. Residents in flood-prone areas have been advised to move to higher ground if possible, as rising waters could make roads impassable within hours. We've also been hearing from agricultural communities in northern Florida, where citrus and vegetable farmers are anxiously awaiting the storm's impact. Florida is one of the largest producers of citrus in the United States, and a major hurricane could devastate crops, potentially leading to long-term economic consequences. The state's $9 billion citrus industry is already under pressure from disease and other weather events, so a direct hit from Hurricane Milton could be a significant blow to farmers. Further complicating matters, supply chain disruptions are expected as major ports along the Gulf Coast are shutting down due to the storm. This could lead to shortages of essential goods like food, fuel, and medical supplies in the days following the hurricane, especially in hard-hit areas. Authorities are urging residents to stock up on essentials if they haven't already, as power outages and road closures could delay resupply efforts. In terms of public health, local hospitals are fully staffed and have implemented emergency protocols to handle an influx of patients. Some facilities have evacuated non-critical patients to other regions, while others are sheltering in place with backup generators to ensure continuous care. Hospital officials are concerned about the potential for injuries related to the hurricane, including accidents caused by flying debris, falls from slippery surfaces, and carbon monoxide poisoning from improperly used generators. As the situation continues to evolve, the key message from officials is clear: stay indoors, stay safe, and wait for the storm to pass before venturing out. Rescue efforts will begin as soon as it's safe to do so, but for now, survival is the top priority.